Have you ever heard of a story of a young, awkward teenager that reads webtoons and is so socially awkward that he can't make friends? A loser that the one time he tries to make friends, he just instantly gets shut down. Oh wait, that's just me? Um, anyways. Don't worry, this story does not end here. Hello everyone, I'm Nyxmortem and today we will be delving into the world of the player. Created by Jong-Sok Park and illustrations by Yeonjun Oh, The Player is a fantasy action webtoon that originally released in Naver back in 2020 and is currently still ongoing with more than 180 chapters. The Player basically revolves around our protagonist, Ho Sol-jin, your average Korean high school boy that inadvertently got transported into the world of a webtoon that he was reading after a not-so-fateful encounter. Now, before getting into it any further, it is imperative of me to declare some of the expectations I had as I was reading throughout the chapters. In all honesty, I have expected this webtoon to be somewhat of a copy of a Tower of God, with all the usual cliches, which is not bad at all, but not exactly unique either. Spoilers, it was not. After binging the webtoon for 3 days straight, barely sleeping, barely eating, and basically bleeding, I can confidently say that The Player is now one of my most favorite webtoons, completely shattering the expectations I've held after reading the first few chapters. Ho Sol-jin, our protagonist, embodies the archetype of the socially awkward high schooler, an outcast seeking refuge in the realm of webtoons. He is often regarded as somewhat of a wimpy and timid character, and everybody basically hates him for one reason or another, clearly and painfully portrayed at the beginning. Chapter 1 begins as he is introduced reading a webtoon called Player, a tale that is centered around a hero called Dean and his adventures toward exploring a place called the Tower, or Sky Terrarium, a mysterious and fearsome structure where a group of people called players dare to explore, whether it be for fortune, fame, or something entirely else. Everything around Sol-jin was going normally until a comment that he made in one of the webtoon's chapters, with him arrogantly saying that he can do better than the protagonist, blew up and became one of the top comments. It turns out that the webtoon is not merely a webtoon, but actually an alternate universe. Arthur, a god of that world, quickly took notice of this and decides to see if it truly can be the main character of the story as Sol-jin says. Taking interest of him, he summons Sol-jin and gives him Excalibur, a living ego weapon, to help him along his quest. As the usual isekai tropes go, he is then transported into the world of the webtoon and must now try to somehow survive while traversing the world entirely alien to him, fraught of magical dangers and adventures. The lore of The Player is by all means not really original and heavily draws inspiration from classic popular mythologies such as Celtic and Eastern mythology. One good example of this is Arthur, the god that summoned Sol-jin. He's obviously a reference to the legendary figure Arthur Pendragon, while Sol-jin's weapon Excalibur is, well, Excalibur. The top 1 guild of the tower was also called Avalon, and the webtoon also features very popular figures like Sun Wukong and Merlin. Throughout the course of the years, plots like exploring a tower, game systems, and the involvement of divine powers or so-called gods have been heavily used and abused by numerous webtoons and even novel authors. The Player is of course no exception to this. However, what sets The Player apart from other stories are the characters, specifically their development. What I really like about The Player is its emphasis on the individuals themselves as they face their own insecurities and problems. For Sol-jin, we get to see as he slowly grows from a cowardly and timid high school boy who runs away all of the time, not facing his fears, to a full-fledged brave warrior that has set his mind to never give up and discover the truth about the world of the tower. As someone who likes zero to hero tropes, that is definitely bonus brownie points from me. As for the other main casts, they each have their own goals and missions that is not completely dependent on the main character's dilemma, which really breathes life into the whole webtoon. The world feels alive and in turn really reels you in to discover more about them and how will they end up. This is subjectively one of the traits that a lot of those other webtoons and novel authors have failed to achieve as compared to The Player. Of course, it is also fair to point out that the player suffers from drawbacks, such as its pacing and overall arcing linear progression of the plot. As said before, the player heavily focuses on characters, which becomes both a good and a bad thing. Due to the story being individual-centric, the plot and the story at times can be very confusing because of the diluted sense of time from between each arcs. Even more so as the story actually focuses more on the combats and fight scenes of different battles. As for the art itself, I have found the illustrations extremely unique and well made. Personally, I really like it. The art is very vibrant, flamboyant, and cute, and it particularly reminded me of Hardcore Leveling Warrior, which is also a webtoon under Naver. Although I honestly believe some of the serious moments of the webtoon can be really dissonant with the art style, which at times makes the supposedly mood of a scene ruined. However, I would still say that this art style, from a market perspective, gives the player an edge over other series, genuinely because of its uniqueness. Overall, I can say that I have really enjoyed reading this piece of fiction for the past few days. It evoked feelings of inspiration and courage towards facing my own problems. If I have to rate it, I would say that the plot is around 1.6 over 3 stars, characters is a solid 2 over 3 stars, art is 2.7 over 3 stars, and appeal is 2.4 over 3 stars. If you like reading Tower of God, Hardcore Leveling Warrior, the tutorial is too hard, or solo leveling, then you might want to give this a try. I believe that readers who enjoy seeing characters flourish and struggle as they improve will be very much interested to read this. Additionally, people who like very unique, very vibrant, and very dynamic action scenes or fight sequences will also be able to enjoy this webtoon fully. However, if you are someone who enjoys complex and intricate plots, then this might not be your cup of tea, because as far as plots go, the player is pretty straightforward and at times very weird. However, if this review managed to pique your interest, then to actually read a few chapters, then I will be incredibly happy and thankful. And that is it for my review of the webtoon player. If you like this content, then please hit that like button and subscribe. Otherwise, if you have any suggestions or critiques, then feel free to comment down below. If you want to come hang around, then also hit that bell button, as I will be reviewing the controversial I Am Not Starfer YA comic in my next video. That's all, and see you until the night guides us back together. I'm Nyxmortem, and goodbye.